Welcome, Julie. How are you?
Hello, I'm here. How are you?
Doing well. Yeah, thanks for being here. We're about to start in a couple of minutes.
Okay, great. Yep. And what do you want to do for the presentation?
I'll let you let you share your screen.
Okay.
I do have it up here too, but it can be kind of clunky trying to follow along. I think you're better at scrolling
Okay.
through it. But I can do whatever you want. So,
No, that sounds fine to me. I have it up here, so I just wanted to confirm.
okay, cool.
Yep, I'm all ready. Hopefully my dog won't be barky. She's just barking at some people outside, so hopefully she'll be good.
You lost the sound. I don't know where the sound went.
It was on a minute ago.
No, it's quit. But it's quit now.
Oh, we're not on mute.
We had sound there for a minute.
I don't know. I don't do Zoom.
I'd go up and I'd go out and come back in.
Really?
Leave the meeting.
This is all the way up.
And audio.
I did. Yeah.
Do
that.
Hmm.
Built-in microphone.
Audio settings. But it was working at first.
That's you. That's us talking.
Right.
Well, we can call in. Maybe.
Why it was working and it quit.
Okay, I have 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. For the tech check, if someone in Zoom land could let me know if they hear me, I'd appreciate it.
We can hear you.
They can hear. Okay, good deal. We have all trustees present, and if you would, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Moving right along, we do have an addition to the agenda. Item 6D, we need to correct the 2025 budget calendar. And if there's no other additions, deletions, or corrections, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
It wouldn't be consented.
Oh, this is the
Yeah,
meeting agenda.
as amended.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and saying, do we approve tonight's agenda as amended? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to our consent agenda, the minutes from August 6th. Are there any additions, deletions, corrections?
I move that we approve the minutes from August 6th.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve the meeting minutes from August 6th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All, any opposed? Motion carries. And we'll move on to reports. And I'll start this time with Trustee King.
Nothing.
Okay,
The PRT did not have a quorum, but we did have a work session. The only thing that I wanted to bring up from that is just to follow up on a letter, the advice memorandum the PRT sent concerning the signage on the Catamount Trailhead. Bo, did you get a return phone call from CSU?
We did reach out to CSU and they are looking at relocating that signage to a spot where it makes more sense up high.
So you did get a call back from them?
Yeah.
What was the nature of the relocation? I mean, can you give me any details?
Yeah, it ends up being up. They were looking at some area where they felt like they couldn't post the signage because the trail was actually in a portion of National Forest. And so it would require getting permission from the National Forest to repost the sign there. We did identify a location that is at the edge of town property going into CSU, I believe, that created less confusion, so that they're looking at that trail signage, evaluating it, realizing that we probably have a pretty active 6 weeks ahead of us as far as hiking goes. And then also knowing that that signage will need to be in place for next year's hiking season as well.
Where would that location be? That you know,
Steve's Bridge, up around Steve's Bridge at the end of where our
but
property
that's
is.
not on CSU property.
It's on our property, but
Oh.
it's before you get past our property. It would make more sense there to have it.
So that's what you said, put it on our property at the end, at the edge there at Steve's
Right.
Bridge.
Yep.
What do you think that might happen?
They have to get a field crew out there to relocate it. So it's a matter of getting it on their schedule.
Any idea when that might happen?
I didn't get a clear answer. It was not indicated at that time, but I'll let you know when I have a date that they are looking at and have it scheduled. I'll make sure to reach out and let you know.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, starting at the other end. Trustee Bell.
So last week, two members of Team Rubicon were here just to get a preview of properties. So David, Douglas, and myself took them on a short tour. I believe we looked at 6 different properties. These are prospective beneficiaries of their services, and Team Rubicon was wanting to just see the nature of the work and get a preview. So I felt like that went well. There was 3 action items that came out of that, which have been addressed. And then one of those was in the anticipation of excess capacity. That is that they are able to meet the private owner's needs, and there would be time for them to address public need. Then I've tagged trees on Hondo that are of a suitable size that they could manage, that are in the right of way. So these are trees, dead standing trees in the Hondo right of way, that are 12 inches or smaller, and also not so enmeshed with power lines that, you know, based on my preview of their skill set, that they could address. That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Question?
I have
nothing.
Wait, we got a question.
Yeah, did I hear you say that 12 inches is maximum diameter for their trees?
So this is sort of informal. So we went to a number of properties. I got to see things that they were shaking their heads at and like, no, that's too much tree. So I've scaled that down. So it's probably going to be larger than that with some of the trees in the field. It's going to be highly dependent on how much fall. They want 90 degrees of fall latitude. They want to not be around power lines. They want to not be around houses. So there's many factors. And so given the nature of these dead standing trees in the right of way, I set that criteria. The Sawyers will inspect each and every one, because it's not just diameter that's going to impact the difficulty. Is, you know, there's places on Hondo where the grade, just getting to tag the tree was pretty dangerous. I was like, I didn't know what road I was going to land on, because it's so steep, and they may not put a Sawyer on that steep soil.
Thank you.
Trustee Ives.
Still nothing.
Okay. I'll report that Becky and I are going after some what they call FEMA mitigation money. And I think I've mentioned this in the past. Last 2 weeks, I would tell you they ran us ragged. The first attempt, you know, we sent a draft in, and a couple of weeks ago, they called us back and said, okay, where's this? They started asking, where are all these items that are basically engineering? And what it boiled down to is we're going to have engineering probably for each culvert that we get FEMA money for, if we get any FEMA money for it. And yeah, like I say, it ran us pretty ragged, and we sent it in, we got it in on time, and then they came back with about a page of questions. And one of the questions was like, are you potentially going to impact utilities? And if so, exactly where? And around here, the exactly where is like, even when we do locates, a lot of times they don't even come up right. And so we crafted a message back, and that seemed to at least address all of the questions that the state had with regards to this FEMA mitigation money. And then we're also going after the Bridge Improvement Program, which is basically a regional grant that is being coordinated with the PPACG's grant coordinator. And that seems to be at least moving. We did get something back. It said, yeah, it looks like it's something that we may be able to get some help on, at least with engineering. And we're continually progressing, trying to get that one going as well. The RTA item tonight is a piece of that. If this is voted in, you know, if the IGA is approved tonight, there'll be probably another piece that we got to go in front of the RTA for, and that's just basically saying, here's exactly what we're wanting to do, and making sure they're okay with us using RTA money as match money for the bridge, which is probably going to cost between 2 and 3 million if we get everything we'd like to get. So that's my report.
Did you have any information from our master plan that you could use on the culverts?
Well, I was kind of hoping we could, but the way the responses came back from FEMA, it sounds like we really have to almost engineer every culvert. We are going to ask the engineers if they can actually do more generic, but their initial assessment, you know, basically covering the whole They only came back at $425,000, which is just a non-starter. We're gonna try to go after about 49,000, and so the scope may have to reduce. And we'll try to get out of as much out of it as we can, you know, at least from the engineering side. And then phase 2 would actually be the putting the culverts in. Yeah, lots of rules when you're using someone else's money. Okay, that's it for my report. We'll move on to staff reports.
Right. Got a written report updated here for you all. We have completed a majority of our work for the CDBG Bridge Rehabilitation and ADA Accessibility Project. The remaining item on there is ADA compliant benches. It's been really challenging to find benches that meet all of those ADA requirements. But we did have our safety audit with CIRSA this week. Have a new representative there. She's really fantastic. Audit went well. And she had some ideas on how to make those benches compliant. So waiting on a little bit of info there. I'm not going to go through the entire list here because a lot of it's just updates, but we did get that hazard mitigation grant, assistance grant submitted to FEMA, and ended up doing a little bit of a different scope as Mayor Dixon said, in 2 phases. The first phase being engineering, and then the second phase really being based upon the findings of that engineering study. All of our FEMA projects for 2023 from the storm event in June have been submitted, and we have they're completed, and we've submitted for reimbursement, have received reimbursement for all but about 20% of those. That reimbursement's also been submitted, just waiting on the state to release that funding. A couple of really cool funding opportunities have come up, as Mayor Dixon alluded to, one of them being a potential CDOT Revitalizing Main Street grant that could help to accomplish the pedestrian bridges for the American Discovery Trail realignment. So that one will be bringing to you for approval of a draft application here at a future meeting, as well as all of the pieces to support the Ute Pass Avenue Bridge. So a little bit of an update there this afternoon. Our actual first project proposal that we submitted to them in 2022 did have a good descriptor on that work to include bridge replacement and or widening. As a result, won't have to go before the CAC or the RTA. So that makes that a lot easier. Not that they would be opposed to it, but it's not a step that we have to do in order to proceed. So you will have that IGA in your packet for this evening for approval. That has been approved by the PPRTA. Didn't receive any major modifications or comments from any of the participating member governments of the PPRTA. That will allow us to move into the very preliminary design and cost estimating with basis. That was an amount that you all approved at a previous meeting for up to $10,000. What that will allow us to do then is to apply for the bridge investment program. That program does require a 10% match in order to potentially fund that bridge. That's probably quite a bit more than what our RTA funds will accomplish. So in addition to that, at your next meeting, you'll have a draft application for the local match assistant program through the state of Colorado. That match assistant is for matches, so therefore does not require a match. And we hope that through blending all of these funding streams, we will be able to fix that bridge, replace it, and be able to include the needed pedestrian improvements there as well. Quite a big project, and as of the last inspection, we did have to do some additional load posting there. So it did change the requirements of the loads that are able to go over that bridge, unfortunately. But that does position us quite well for funding, knowing that it's in that poor a condition, needing to be replaced. Outside of that, keep an eye out in your emails. We will have some items coming to you to help prepare for the board retreat and your goal setting for the 2025 budget. And then we are also working with Public Works to identify some equipment needs and some opportunities that'll be coming to you at a later date as well. Any questions for me?
What are public work opportunities?
Some opportunities for potential equipment purchase.
Oh, that's above needs.
Those are their equipment needs and some opportunities to help fill those needs. So I'll have a presentation for you at your next meeting.
Whatever, okay. Who did the load testing on the bridge?
That was done by actually Basis. They were contracted by CDOT. Every 2 years, they do a bridge inspection of all the off-system bridges in the county.
Okay. And did they lower our rating?
Mhm.
What, do you remember what it was to,
Yeah,
what it was and what it is now?
Not entire, yes, I can compare those and get you that data, but it basically went from being a certain amount of tons spread over various axles to only 13 tons.
Did you get a copy of the report?
I do. I'm happy to share that if you'd
I'd
like.
be good. Yeah, thank you.
Trustees, any other questions? Moving on.
I have a couple of things. Financial reporting. How'd we do with the bank register? Was that useful
The disbursement schedule?
for you guys? Yeah, that was the bank register that got
Yeah,
emailed to the
right.
board maybe a week or 10 days ago.
So what's your question?
Was that useful? Was that a good report to maintain in the future?
Yes, absolutely. But obviously we need the other reporting statements to really make a lot of sense of it, because it's just a piece of the little puzzle, of the big puzzle.
Sure. And we're really close. I was hoping to have that for this meeting and just kept finding more corrections. So I'm really close to having my head wrapped around it and getting that. And maybe we should just commit to putting it in the next meeting agenda, regardless of where it's at, and just letting you guys, have it. And if there is anything to correct still, I'll be able to show you and point that out. And
Well, it'd certainly
get
be
that too.
helpful in creating a new baseline going forward with respect to our budget analysis. Okay.
Absolutely. The other thing I want to talk to you guys about is accessibility. We've been really hammering on this stuff. We're doing everything by the book. We've hit the deadlines. We're in good shape that way. But we recently had an aha moment, and this meeting is actually kind of the pilot for this. So zooming out a little bit, we thought, well, let's look at the posting requirement, right? Rather, we're so focused on making everything accessible, what really has to be posted. And what I figured out is that we're posting way too much. The whole packet doesn't need to be posted. The agenda doc has to be posted, the meeting time and place, the general content. I'd like to add a statement to the website to direct people to my office if they want the whole document. I did get some requests. So I did that for this meeting. And making the one-page doc accessible takes like a minute. because it's just a PDF. But once you get into maps and diagrams, charts, arrows, all that stuff is really, really tough. The last PRT meeting, that packet had like 300 things to tag in it. It was really time consuming. So it's taking staff half an hour to an hour and a half to make full packets accessible. And I don't think it's the best way to spend time in the office. So kind of another, ray of sunshine that's really going to help. And then what that does for archival stuff is it makes it so we can go in and leave the agenda doc up and just remove a lot of that extra content. So I don't know. I thought it was a good balance between statutory posting requirements and statutory accessibility requirements. So.
Okay, is that it?
That's all I have.
Okay. Any other, well, obviously no other staff here. So we'll go ahead and move on to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make public comment? Go ahead.
Rocco Blasi, 10955 Belvedere. Good evening, trustees. My comment relates to item 6A, which is the easement agreements. As a planning commissioner, I was surprised to see this on your agenda since the easement consideration has not come before the planning commission. Town Code Section 7-102, reasons for granting an easement, stipulates planning commission involvement. Specifically, paragraph 2 states planning commission involvement in considering feasible alternatives. Of note, I asked the question, who considered if purchase of public property was a feasible alternative? The code is clear that town staff or contractors are not authorized to make that determination. There's the issue of conformance, conforming with the comprehensive plan. Who made that determination? Were they aware that a social trail links neighborhoods in that right of way? How does the easement you're considering address the comprehensive plan vision on page 30 to continue to provide ample open space and trail access? It's clear to me that conformance with the comprehensive plan, that determination is incomplete. Now, some may parse the municipal code and see that the planning commission isn't referenced in every section related to easements. To me, the exclusion of planning commission in the easement process cherry picks only certain sections of the code related to easements. But regardless of code, is it a best practice to ignore the planning commission's experience and knowledge of past precedent when forming land use recommendations for the trustees? I don't believe the town has a choice to ignore the planning commission when considering easement applications. But I guess my question is, even if you thought you had the choice to exclude the input of the planning commission, why would you choose to omit us from the process? Ultimately, since the planning commission has not considered this easement request, I ask you to table this item until planning commission weighs in on this land use matter. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other audience members? Anyone on Zoom?
Not seeing anybody raise their hand on Zoom.
Okay. Switch out of that mode. Okay, that concludes our first public comment, moves us into item 6A, our easement agreements on 6810 Park Avenue and 6795 Colorado Street. And we'll do a initial staff review on that.
Thank you. Becky, did you want me to address any of those comments or just do my presentation as planned?
I would like her to.
Julie,
Okay.
if you wouldn't mind, thank you.
Sure. I'm having a little difficulty clicking this to, oh, there we go. So we did reach out to the town attorney regarding this request. And we were advised by the town attorney to have the board review and make the final decision on these easements and to use section 7-102-101 and 7-102 as a review criteria. Chapter is the land use code, which is under the purview of the planning commission. So those are kind of the main points that I can share regarding that. Becky, did you want to add anything before I continue?
No, I mean, this is probably the second easement that we've dealt with since I've come on board that I can recollect. And each time we reached out to the town attorney to have them identify what the process and the procedure for approval was, and we followed that. So
I think in reading the code myself, it's clear that the planning commission needs to be involved in this process.
I would have to disagree. The section of code that's being quoted basically says if a sale has, if either the planning commission, and I probably ought to get it up here and so I can read it here real quick.
I have it in my presentation if you want me
Yeah,
to
I'm
just
looking at
advance
that.
to it. Here's 7. Oh, I don't have the portion about sale, so I guess you'll
Well,
have
but
to.
section 7-102, if you've got the entire section in your presentation, it basically says assistant, okay, the reasons for granting an easement. Assistance to property owners who do not have clear title to their land due to encroachment of the property upon public land and which purpose of said property is not considered a feasible alternative by the planning commission and board of trustees. And so,
Yeah.
you know, without at least an offer to purchase, there's no basically purchase of public property on the table. So there's been no purchase offer. At least no formal purchase offer.
Well, I don't read it that way at all, but let me put it this way. Why wouldn't we want our planning commission involved? They represent the community.
Yeah, to me, that's a separate issue where
What's a separate issue?
if we want to engage planning commission, because all the training I've been to says planning commission can only do basically the master plan and anything that's specifically
Where's their
identified.
comment on the master plan?
Okay, let me finish.
Okay.
So without having that specifically identified, then planning commission, at least with the training I've had, has no role. Now, is that something this board wants to have redone? That's the separate issue.
What redone?
Do you want the code redone to basically say, it
Well,
basically
it
would
says it right here,
alter the
planning
table.
commission and board of trustees.
If an offer's been on the table, we have no offer.
There's
There's been no sale.
The fact that there isn't a sale is another issue.
Yeah, but then again, is that something that we want to try to correct in future code to make it clearer versus holding this up for something that,
Well, I don't think there's any harm or foul in getting our community representation on the planning commission to comment, even ask the question, why aren't we selling it?
they haven't approached us formally to buy it. You know, and that,
I personally would, this is what we formed the planning commission for, is to have their expertise and
Okay.
input. They're representing our community, not our contractors.
I understand, but what we would need to really do for that is we would need to have a work session with the attorneys to make sure that we're doing things in accordance with things that'll actually stand up.
Negotiations, standing up in
And
court.
anything we have to do has to stand up to whatever. We had a real close relationship with the attorneys when we rewrote the land use code. Now, is it perfect? Absolutely not.
How can you not read Planning Commission and Board of Trustees? It's both there. Why would we want to have their input?
Again, this one, to me, says if someone wanted to buy it and Planning Commission and Board of Trustees said no, the alternative is an easement. That's what it tells me. If someone wants to buy this and they said no, I'm not even sure in our current code, Planning Commission is involved with property sales. And so really to try to address, I think, the overall concern, we need to have a work session with the attorneys and maybe with Planning Commission too, to basically go in
Why,
and say,
why
okay,
would you want to spend the money with the attorneys? All we're doing is getting input from the people we put in the Planning Commission.
again, under our existing code, I don't think they have the role.
I disagree. Where's
And
their,
we
where's their
checked
comment?
with our- We
Would you,
checked with our
do you
attorneys.
argue that with the master plan?
We
They
checked
haven't
with our
commented.
attorneys, though.
They haven't commented on if it's compliant with the master plan. And I think that's pretty clear.
Okay, I think obviously we're not going to agree. And so I think the board needs to basically at least hear the proposal. And then
Why do we want to spend that money? If we just want to
Again,
table it
let's-
and let them input.
let's have the board hear it. We've got the people here right now. Let's have the
Yeah,
board
but
hear it.
If we table it, then my suggestion would be we table it, we reconvene, get their input.
Okay, okay, that can be a motion. Is it, okay, so I take that as a motion?
I'll make it as a motion. I move that we defer the action on this easement issue until we have input from the Planning Commission on whether it's compliant with the master plan and also any other comments that they feel relevant to this issue.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that we table this item until it goes, basically, we send it to the Planning Commission for input. And I'm gonna do.
Discussion?
Yeah, let's have a discussion real quick before because I'll probably do an individual roll call vote on this one.
So we have a very complicated nested conditional. And so I think before we can make an informed vote, we need to at least understand this nested conditional. And the question that I'm hearing in terms of the major piece of the dispute is you're saying that the land is not for sale. Is that correct? And does it have to be for
I'm
sale
saying that-
available to the town to purchase or just open
To
sale?
my knowledge, there's been no formal request to purchase.
The town has not made a formal,
No, the people applying for the easement.
Wouldn't it be our responsibility to say, because the land belongs to the town, that we want consideration for that change?
Again, I think you're talking process change that we haven't been doing, at least to my knowledge.
All the more reason we need some input from the Planning Commission.
so again, to get to my question of this, complicated nested conditional. And now I'm understanding your interpretation is the applicant is not making a request to purchase town, or the right of way for the easement property, correct?
Correct. No formal request, at least I'm aware of, has been made to purchase the property.
Okay, so that's how the town lawyer came to the decision, is to sort of break this down into pieces.
Yeah, you'd have to contact the town lawyer. I can't speak for the town lawyer.
If I may, I may be able to help here. I was in on the exchange and that email thread. So there's a couple of things going on here. You know, we're looking at this as a land use thing. You know, should these people be allowed to use this land this way or that? It's more than that to the attorney. They're looking at this as an agreement, as a legal agreement. And in our code, the Board of Trustees has the authority to enter into a legal agreement, regardless of any of the land use stuff or commissions or anything. So from their standpoint, it might just be that simple, but
From what? I didn't hear you. From their standpoint, what?
it might just be that simple. Like they're just looking at it as, hey, this is an agreement that the town is entering into and the board is the body with that authority.
Right.
So that was my take from the email thread anyway.
So with respect to the request to table, what would the action of the planning commission be as we read the code? So is there action for them to take based on?
Well, they are the controllers of the master plan, and then we haven't had a comment on whether that's compliant, only from the contractors.
And I'm not arguing. I just want the criteria to be laid out, because if we turn this back to them, then they need clear instructions on exactly what it is they're going to do and how they're going to do it. So we shouldn't be confused about the code ourselves. We should be very clear with what the instruction set is when it goes back, if it goes back.
Agreed.
Okay. So do you want to interject?
Yeah, I don't see a part in the code or the land use code, municipal code or land use code where there's, you know, clear instruction for a planning commission procedure in this. So I think procedurally, I think we've done this right. Is it in keeping with the rest of our code? Does it fit with the rest of the land use code? It doesn't seem to. The planning commission does have purview on, you know, most similar things. So my take on it is that, you know, this is being done right procedurally, but it may not be how we want to do it in the future. And I think that's what the mayor's suggesting, is maybe an ordinance to clean this up and change that procedure and put that in place. But it's an unfortunate test of our new land use code, right?
It just seems like we have these volunteers in the town that have input and they have expertise that we might not even know the right question to be asking. It's just information from a volunteer group within the scope of what we do through land use code and through the ordinances. And it feels like that a decision was made to not include them. And it doesn't seem like it was necessary in this case. It's just information.
No, definitely not. We just make every effort to follow code as best as we can. And I've only processed, you know, half of an easement before this, which was Foster. It started before my time,
Right.
but I kind of finished it out. And so, yeah, you know, both of these, that one started before the code changed.
Mhm.
And it still just went before the board. It didn't go before planning commission until it got to the conditional use part, that first one.
Weigh in here too. So the clarification that we got from town legal was that the planning commission does have a role in this when it is when the town is an applicant in the subdivision application. But unless the town is the applicant in the subdivision application, then the PC won't be involved in granting easements. However, this particular application that's before you, as you can find in the staff report, did go before the planning commission, and the planning commission approved a minor subdivision. So there was, you know, it did go before the planning commission,
But not as an easement.
but not as an easement.
There was, I just want to point out there was an inclusion in the staff report that the easements would need to be presented to the board as a separate item from the subdivision approval that the planning commission had full authority over, which has already been approved.
A call for the question? A call for the vote?
Can I make one last comment?
Go ahead.
As a board, we run into this repeatedly, disenfranchising our committees in one way or another. And I think this is another potential example where where we might have the legal right to proceed exactly as we've outlined here tonight, but it still creates a disenfranchisement. And I think that's something, when we meet in September, that could be a good topic of discussion. Because as Trustee Ives points out, they're vital to our notification and information of how we proceed and conduct business. So thank you.
Could we clarify the motion? Because right now it's just kind of, if I remember right, we're just saying we want to table it, send it back to planning commission. Could we be specific?
Can you read back my motion?
I'd have to review
Oh, you're doing the video minutes.
video.
Video,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, let me restate it the best I remember then. I wanted to make a motion that we defer the action on this easement as stated in the agenda on business item 6A and send it to the planning commission for comment, specifically on whether they think that it meets the comprehensive plan guidelines. And number two, any other comment they think's relevant to this transaction.
And make a recommendation to the board?
Yes.
Does that the second agree?
I do.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
One of the red flags that came up to me was the reference to a subdivision, which is with their goal, the owner's goal. And I do feel that anything that would end with that does need the planning commission's input now, before the
Okay.
easement is
That's a good,
decided on.
that's a good point.
The planning commission approved the subdivision at their last meeting.
So they have been involved.
They have been involved.
Yeah, just not on the easement piece.
Can I
That's a
make,
big if though.
Yeah.
The easement needs to be
Mhm.
considered in the subdivision.
Part of it.
so can I
It
make,
was.
can I
It's
make a-
included as part of the subdivision.
So they voted on the easement.
Mm,
They voted on the
Recommendation.
subdivision with the easements included. But the license or the legal agreements, the legal annex, or excuse me, the legal easement agreements cannot be signed by the planning commission. They have to be signed by the board and approved by the board.
Yeah, the planning commission didn't vote on anything. They make recommendations.
The planning commission did vote on the minor subdivision and it has been
Right.
approved.
All
That
right.
is their purview for
That's
minor
right.
subdivision.
That's right. Yeah, all right.
And they were aware of the easement.
Yes.
Is that true?
you guys,
Can I just point out the exhibits that are included in your packet are the same exhibits that were included in the planning commission packet?
So trustee King asked if that was true. I was not at the meeting. I did ask Bo today when I saw the agenda item if the planning commission had been informed and been involved in the easement process. He assured me that 100% the planning commission had not been involved with the easement process. But so kind of some apples and oranges, but also fruit salad in the middle. That makes sense. So we, as a planning commission, did not consider the easement piece as far as recommendations to the trustees. That's for you to decide if you want additional input before you make a decision on this easement.
Thank you.
Can, you want to make a comment?
Hang on a minute. We're starting to get a little out of control. We actually got a motion and a second on the table for a vote. That's quite a bit of discussion. I'm going to ask the trustees if there's any more discussion.
Just one last comment or question. Does the applicant benefit, or is it benefited or harmed by any delay that we take?
Yeah.
in-
Can we say something? Can you guys hear us? Can you hear us?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, we can hear you.
This is Robin Myers. We are significantly harmed by a delay, and we have followed all the correct procedures. The Planning Commission was involved in the approval of the subdivision, but they do not have the legal authority when it comes to the easement use. I don't know what, I'm not sure what the whole motivation of this is at this point, but we are harmed by any delay
Because the closing.
because of a closing that we have coming on property that's affected. This easement's run through these two cabins for 100 years. We did not make an offer to purchase the land. We were told the town doesn't sell
Well,
easements
that's beside the
anymore.
point. The
But
planning commission approved
The
it.
Planning Commission approved this. So I'm trying to figure out what is the motivation for the delay. I don't understand it. And I don't know what the Planning Commission is supposed to do when it looks at an issue over which it doesn't really have jurisdiction,
They'd already approved the subdivision.
that already approved the subdivision.
Again, I'm gonna, to keep things moving, there's a motion on the table with a second. And I'm gonna do, unless and other trustees have discussion, I'm gonna
Well,
call for a vote.
Anne suggests that she has some information that would clear up some of our questions, so I would appreciate hearing what she has to say.
And a trustee is requested you go ahead and make a statement.
Well, I hate to interrupt too, but I was at the meeting and I've been in the town long enough to know that the town does not like to sell public property. And I think if there are any concerns about the trail that goes through, that is an unopened road. So it's an easement, the trail can continue. If it was sold, the Myers would have the right to not let anybody go down there. And they did discuss this years ago with Dick Bratton, and he said, absolutely not. We need to keep that open. So that's all the kind of history that I kind of have. And I did think that we did what we were supposed to do the last time, and then it went on to the trustees. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I just want to restate the fact that, the Muni Code is clear to me that it asks for the Planning Commission to make a recommendation on if it's compliant, if the easements are compliant with the master plan, and that hasn't been done. I also would like to know why there wasn't any consideration or why the selling of an easement wasn't under consideration. There's a lot of questions I still have, and I think it would be worth the wait to have the Planning Commission weigh in on this easement issue.
And Julie alluded to the exhibits, these two agreements. The Planning Commission did review these.
The exhibits were not reviewed by the planning commission, but the planning commission did review the legal descriptions that identified the easements that are included on the subdivision plat that was approved by planning commission.
Thank you.
So exhibit A of those, they also reviewed, well, they basically did, actually, now that, not in that packet, those, so the legal description is an excerpt from the subdivision, and exhibit B is also an excerpt from the approved subdivision, and exhibit C is an excerpt from the preliminary plat, which planning commission also reviewed in their packet. So as a packet, as an easement agreement packet, they did not receive that as a packet, but they reviewed and received and had access to all of the materials that are included in the easement agreement, aside from the agreement itself.
Well, I would note on exhibit A, the legal description, it does state the purpose as use easement. So that was, they would be, have been aware that that's what that legal was for.
Correct. It's drawn on the subdivision plat that will be recorded with the county. It was included in their packet.
Okay, trustees, further discussion? And if not, I'm going to start to my left. Trustee Bell. The motion again was to send, basically table it, send it back for PC comment on the comp, with the comp plan and any other,
Any other comment
relative for recommendation back to the board.
Can I add one more thing before you vote? I just want to be fair to the applicants. They've been through a long process. And the comprehensive plan was considered by the planning.
Excuse me, but you do not have the floor.
Okay.
I'm going to decline. So no to tabling.
No to table.
I will vote to table it.
There's yes. Table. Walker, yes.
No.
King, no. And I'm going to vote no as well, because it is an impact to the applicants, but I would also add that we must sit down and with legal and try to clarify our process. And so motion fails. And then we move on to the rest of the agenda. We need to actually now vote on have we had enough discussion on the easement to actually go ahead and vote?
Would you like to have Julie present the staff report?
I would like Julie's full presentation.
Okay, Julie, now you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Let me see if I can get this prepared again. Here. Okay. This is a request for 2 easement agreements on 2 properties that are owned by one 6810 Park Avenue and 6795 Colorado Street. I'll kind of go through this quickly. So it's Sean and Robin Myers. They're here tonight. The property is zone R1 low density residential. Their existing land use is single family residential for both properties, and there's no change in the proposed land use. The previous approval was the SNR Myers subdivision approved by Planning Commission on July 23rd, 2024. These are the existing conditions prior to the approved subdivision. The figure 1 shows the existing parcel configurations. Parcel B is actually, which is 6795 Colorado Street, is actually under 5,000 square feet. So is currently a non-conforming structure, or a non-conforming lot, excuse me. In R1, the Minimum lot size is 5,000 square feet. Figure 2 shows the existing structures that exist in the right-of-way. The right-of-way is this light gray area, and both structures on each lot have existed for decades in the right-of-way as such. This is the approved plat with the proposed easements. You can see in the middle of each easement, there is a place there for the use easement recording information to be recorded once approved by the town board. Those legal documents have to be fully executed by the applicant and board before they can be taken to be recorded. And that recording information needs to be included on the plat before the plat can be recorded. At that time, these lots can be sold with clear title. So these are the factors that we were to be considered in granting an easement, confirmation with the town comprehensive plan. Although this packet did not do a comprehensive review of the town's review of the comprehensive plan, that was included in the planning commission packet. And it was found to be in conformance with the comprehensive plan by the planning commission. There were no adverse effects to the town discovered for the granting of this easement, and benefits to the town would simply be to allow this subdivision plat to bring this existing lot into conformance as far as lot size through the subdivision process, and then to bring those non-conforming encroaching structures into conformance by the granting of the easement. Reasons for granting the easement are compensation. This is something that the town attorney has drafted, and I assume that the board has already been privy to and agreed upon. The standard compensation to the town for an easement is $10. Second is the assistance to the property owners who do not have clear title to their land due to an encroachment of their property upon public land, and which purchase of said public property is not considered a feasible alternative by the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees. So purchase of the land by the property owners was not considered feasible by town. This was something that came to me with that decision, discussions with, as Sean Myers mentioned, as discussions with the town, who recommended that they request an easement in order to gain clear title for these properties so that they can be sold. And 3 is service of health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants of the town, or alternatively, lack of detriment or harm to the health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants of the town. And staff has found that there will be no harm to the health, safety, and welfare of the inhabitants of the town by granting this easement for the encroachment of these structures, which have existed in the right-of-way for years. And so my summary and recommendation is that the proposed easement agreements will allow the continued existence of the encroaching improvements, and will resolve the encroachment that exists without the town having to sell right-of-way. It will not conflict with the town's use of the right-of-way, and it is conformance with the town's code of ordinances. Staff recommends approval of the easement agreements as presented and as included in the packet.
Okay, trustees, any questions?
Julie, what was the original right-of-way easement on Colorado? Was it 40 feet? Or I'm just, yeah, the
The width
existing.
of the easement, let me look. I don't remember if it indicates the actual width.
I think if you zoom in on the drawing, it looks like it's 40 foot.
I didn't find it on the original plan.
I'm
I see
looking
it on the new plat.
at this.
Oops. So, if you look, sorry, I'm moving all my shapes around.
Because that would be the
It's,
subdivision.
yeah,
plat.
so there's not a line across, but the northernmost line that's at an angle is 45 feet. So I'm assuming that the width is 40 feet. Oh, yeah, it says here is one at 40 feet, the one that goes straight across. Let me,
Yeah, you need to look at the approved subdivision plat picture.
Well, my question is, what was it originally, not after
Oh,
the new plat was made?
the right of way hasn't changed. The subdivision plat only adjusted the lot line between the two lots. The right of way line has not changed.
So it's 40 feet.
It was 40 feet and it still is 40 feet.
Thank you.
trustees, additional questions, comments?
A simple question. One of the sentences and recommendations is there will not be a conflict with the town's use of the roadway. Is this inclusive of the social trail that there exists?
I assume so. The town still owns the land. The town can still use it the way that they
So
use
the-
it
so
right
the-
now.
Just, I wanted the clarity. Thank you. And then this is more of a town staff question. And maybe take this at another time, but back to section 7-101 sub 1, confirmation with the town's comprehensive plan. Who has the right, and is that in the code of who has the right to make those determinations? And
Comprehensive plan is one of the criteria for all land. Let me start again.
well, Julia,
Consistency
I
with the
think
comprehensive plan is one of the criteria for every land use approval. But a granting of an easement is not a land use application.
I'd like town staff to address that since they have jurisdiction.
So the way that we have approached this in this application, when it was at the subdivision level, was that baseline, Julie, reviewed the application or the subdivision application against that criteria for compliance with the town comprehensive plan
But-
and included that in her staff report, which then the planning commission approved.
Who do we authorize to make that assessment? That's my question. Is it in the code at any place that, because Rocco's point is one thing if it's limited to planning commission. It's another thing if it's got broader range for interpretation and so that's.
I don't know that it's particularly defined, but if the planning commission at that point in time identified other areas in which they felt that it was out of compliance with the comprehensive plan, that at that approval point, that would have been a great opportunity to bring that up.
All right, thank you. No questions.
Okay, trustees, any further questions or comments? And if not, I would entertain a motion.
That we accept the easement agreements as presented for 6810 Park Avenue and 6795 Colorado Street.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the easement agreements for 6810 Park Avenue and 6795 Colorado Street. And we want to do another roll call vote on this one. I'll do another roll call vote. Trustee Bell,
Yes.
trustee Ives,
Yeah, I move we approve it.
trustee Walker. Aye. Trustee King.
Yes.
Aye. And I'll vote aye as well. Motion carries. Okay, so that moves us on to item 6B, the PPRT IGA. And I'll kind of brief this a little bit since I'm on the RTA. Colorado Springs and El Paso County did something identical where they have a need now, they need to spend money now, but it is actually part of something that's been approved in what they call RTA 3, which begins in 2025. That was what the voters just voted on here a year or so ago. And so we have a need where we're trying to apply for a grant for our main bridge. But in order to do so, we have to have basically an engineering cost estimate, actually a cost estimate to put into the bid package. And so what this does is allows us to spend money now, but then go to the RTA in 25 and ask for reimbursement on whatever the cost is. And I think it's up to 10 grand even in some of the paperwork we sent to the RTA. And so that's in a nutshell. It's a big, long-winded agreement, but it basically allows us to get reimbursed next year for spending money this year. So, are there any questions? And if there are no questions, I'd entertain a motion.
So, Mayor, just so I'm fully understanding.
Go
what
ahead.
You're seeking,
Yeah.
you're wanting approval for this
Yeah.
agreement.
The PPRTA has already approved it. And so the last step is for us to approve it.
It's approving those funds to be paid.
It's
forward.
approving the agreement. Now,
You approved approval of the expenditure at the July
we've already-
meeting. This particular agreement just is the agreement that needs to occur between the town of Green Mountain Falls and the Pikes Peak Regional Transportation Authority. And what it says is that we are incurring costs for a project that would be eligible to be funded in 2025. In 2024, we will foot those costs in 2024 to be reimbursed in 2025.
Well, I'm going to move. We approve the PPRTA IGA agreement as presented.
is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the PPRTA IGA for our bridge project. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 6C. And this is the donation acceptance, and I'll take the lead on this one as well because this involved me directly. Monday morning, I was invited to an individual's house. They really would like to sponsor Team Rubicon having the dinner catered by the cantina. And so I said, okay, I'll bring it in front of the board. There are some things that I may have to do pretty quickly because I'll have to send out another invite. So far off the original invite from when we were going to have like hamburgers and hot dogs, I think I've only got 5 recipients. We need to resend the invite if the board does agree to have Cantina Verde go ahead and cater it. It would still be at the farm stand. It would have to move from Saturday to Sunday night because that's what the cantina can support. And we would need to try to figure out how we're going to deal with the recipients and if there's any volunteers down there at the time. Is the town going to pick up their tab or whatnot? Team Rubicon, I've contacted them today. It's 6 one, half a dozen of the other. It would, on Sunday night, they would have probably a maximum of 31 people. But there's potentially 8 that may go home early. And so being that this is kind of a last minute change, and it's someone that's really wanting to make a donation, you know, in order to support Team Rubicon's efforts with us, I need to bring it in front of the board and get your opinion. Some things may have to happen quickly, but I'm still going to propose that Building UPass Community brings desserts, because they've already been contacted about that. I'm also going to propose that fire department still bring canned soda, because they've already been contacted about that. And then the individual who wishes to remain anonymous would then basically foot the bill for Team Rubicon, and then we'd have the extra individuals who may be down there to try to figure out. And the town could potentially foot the bill. I think the original plan was to have them pay. And so I'm sure you probably have questions. So go ahead and start firing away.
So who's going to be in attendance or invited to the cantina?
It's not at the cantina.
Farm
Farm
stand.
stand. It would be the recipients would be the ones invited. We may have representatives there from Pepsi, you know, if they're doing desserts. We may have some representatives even from the fire department if they're bringing drinks. Again, when I went out with the original invite, I think I just got one more today, so I got a total of 5. I don't know if when we get from Saturday to Sunday is going to be that big a deal. I also don't know at this point, because I'll have to get a head count. That's the big thing, is just getting a head count. I've got a head count from Team Rubicon. It's getting a head count from everyone else.
It sounds generous. And for clarity, the $700 that we approved for town use, we could still use that for the recipients and
Yeah.
cover that.
That would not change. The town is approved, or the board is approved up to 700. 250 of that will likely go to the farm stand, because that's what they'll charge us to rent, I believe.
So with the approved excess not needing to go towards hot dogs, that leaves about $500 that the town has approved. Approximately how many people at $20 a plate would that handle? And if that's the case, would you just be able to cut off reservations at that number to keep us at that figure?
You know, that would be an interesting thing, because if we have people showing up and it's just kind of like, and they would be recipients, it's like, sorry, you're not on the list.
25 people, it looks like it would end up being, you could have them RSVP and then.
Yeah, I would have to get a head count. And the cost from the cantina per person. You know, being that this is kind of a last minute potential change.
Like, as we discussed last time, I would encourage all members of the community to come, but if they want something to eat, they're gonna have to pay for it.
I would have to have a head count, because the cantina just can't,
I think
we can't do it. We can't open it up for the entire.
It ends up
community.
being a capacity thing
Yeah.
too, at a certain point.
They
certain-
can get a to-go plate.
They
I
could
mean,
get- they
a-
could go
a-
to the
a-
canteen and order a to-go plate. There you go.
Exactly.
a logistics capacity of making sure they have enough supplies on stock and
Yeah,
staff.
I'm
to
not
support.
talking about that. I'm just talking about encouraging the community to come down, and if they
Yes.
want to eat, they're gonna have to pay for their own food.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, again, I would maybe even take it a little further and say, if you want something to eat, bring your own. Yeah.
Well, and in addition to this, I know that there's a couple of other items in the work, we've identified some additional needs for some community outreach, and I think that those opportunities will be being planned here in the not too distant future.
So Mayor.
Yeah.
A lot of this logistics hits on you. So, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
generous offer. So are you willing to
Oh, yeah.
deal with
It's,
last minute change?
it's a phone call, maybe 3 emails.
Okay.
It's not that big a deal. It's kind of quick. And so, yeah, I need to get it out tomorrow. I would want people to respond. I'm gonna probably ask for initially within 24 hours. But I do not know for sure at what point the canteen is gonna say, okay, yeah, no, we can't handle anymore. And so I'll be asking for a quick turn.
So I'd like to make a motion that we accept this generous donation to feed Team Rubicon, that we continue to use the 450 residual dollars to feed recipients, and that you're authorized to try to get a reservation list, an RSVP list, whatever it takes to.
I will,
feed those
outside of Team Rubicon, I will have a list.
Yeah. So
Where are we on the town money?
Um,
500, 700.
The total we authorized was 700, so we're roughly looking at 450.
For the town.
Yeah.
After it's all said and done. So we
Yeah.
have a buffer there
We have,
potentially.
we have a little bit of a buffer.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the donation and to for the Team Rubicon Appreciation Dinner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there any opposed? No opposed. Motion carries. I'll get the emails and phone calls going. Okay, item 6D. The approval of the corrected 2025 budget calendar, and I'll let staff brief that one.
So we had identified a couple of days on here that conflict with another use of the town hall. Election Day, November 5th.
Oh,
Will be, we've been requested to allow this facility to be used as a polling place for this end of the county. So there were 2 dates on your calendar previously that conflicted with that date, which have been adjusted on here. We did start sending out calendar invites for these meetings that were on here, pending approval of this tonight. We'll go ahead and finish those out with our committees, et cetera.
okay. BoT, November 19th.
Whose birthday is that?
Yeah, I wonder who. Trustees, any discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the adjusted calendar for the budget.
second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the adjusted calendar for the budget. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving on to item 7A. We had a response to correspondence item number 7B from our last BoT meeting. Did you want to?
Yeah, this was just a discussion item to put on here.
This is on the drones, correct?
And this had to do with drones. Looking into it, we can't do anything as a municipality.
Okay.
I don't think law enforcement has teeth. So I talked with the marshal's office a little bit about it. Did some quick homework.
Okay, so my question for the board is, would you like to have a work session where we bring in law enforcement and discuss, the issue of drones, basically?
So, is the law that is it, that prohibits municipality from controlling airspace, its own airspace, is it pretty clear? And have you read it? Is it clear and clear cut?
I haven't read it and I don't know the answer to that, honestly.
Is this just information we got from Marshall?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
it sounds like essentially it's a First Amendment issue.
well, I mean, just thinking outwardly, and if we desired to respond to a letter that was addressed to the whole board, it would be nice if we had some reference, legal reference to our decision-making, because if that's true, then obviously our response is simple. But it'd be nice if we knew what that was.
Yeah, we should be able to get that in place for our next meeting.
Yeah, that's why I was wondering if we wanted like a work session to kind of go over that, because there are communities that do have some ordinances regarding drones. I looked at a couple of them and it's like, oh my gosh, no, I don't even want to touch those with a 10-foot pole. And Bo's right, we get into, okay, first off, you get into the problem with legally, people operating them legally, okay, within their rights. And then you also start kind of getting, the federal airspace. And typically there's like I think the FAA probably wouldn't get involved unless it was over like 400 feet above ground level. I've heard that number floated around, but I can tell you for a fact that the local FAA office, when I was there, we got calls on drones. I got calls on drones. Aircraft certification can't do anything with them. And so I would forward the calls over to operations. The operations manager would basically come over and say, quit forwarding the calls to me because I don't have the staff or the equipment to deal with it. And so it's just kind of this vague nebulous thing that we have to be really, really careful of, because there are certain rights involved with the drone operators. And so that's why I was wondering if you wanted to have like a work session where we try to bring law enforcement in and say, here's what they know from a law enforcement perspective.
Let me ask Manager Frank, have you had any other complaints from other residents about drone noise?
No, it's pretty infrequent. I think this is the only one that I can recall. In addition to that, I think that there's some other enforcement considerations that the marshal's office brought up. Oftentimes, you go to a site where a drone is being flown and it's being operated from somewhere else. And then, the ability to find that person, get it down, it takes valuable resources away from, responding to other issues that are.
Yeah, I get that, but that's just part of the job, sometimes it's hard. But I would, personally I would want it to be a more of a community concern before we involve community assets. So if this is the one and only complaint, it's like I'd like to verify it. It's a community problem, not an individual problem. Marshall can help us with that. If he gets another call and he goes out, this guy's dive bombing his dogs in the yard, that's a real problem. But if it's just high fly taking pictures, that's, probably the complainant's problem. But yeah, I don't see any reason pursuing it, although it just goes into the policy of responding to a board letter. It's just like, I would like to see us do that.
Would you be okay if we directed staff to draft a letter for my signature that basically kind of maybe outlines some of the issues that we would face
Yeah.
with ordinances?
You're a law enforcement officer. Can you chime in on that?
There's laws that would cover what the complainant was talking about. You've got noise ordinances that go over certain amounts of time. You've got privacy issues. You've got harassment issues. There are laws that you can apply to anything. But But if there's no law to be applied, then there's no law to be applied. You see what I mean? If the marshal has something to work with, I'm confident he'll work with it. I don't think we need to invent case law on this one.
So basic nod of heads, have staff draft something and I'll sign it for on behalf of the board.
Going where?
Back to the person who sent it,
Oh.
sent in the request.
Sure.
Yep. Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Okay. Yep, I think we got a general thumbs up on that. Okay, we get now to item 9, our second public comment. We have anyone in the audience that would like to comment? Anyone on Zoom?
I don't have anything coming in from Zoom.
Okay, if that's the case, we're at item number 10. It's 8:27. This meeting is adjourned.